What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. We are now in the postseason, playing games going on as we get ready for the playoffs, or you're getting ready for the play-in, or you're getting ready for the lottery, or you're the Suns, who aren't doing any of the above. The only team in the league not falling in those three categories. Rough season. So they go into the offseason, like we said, with all kinds of interesting storylines and things to watch. We knew the dominoes were going to start to fall, and they were going to fall in a hurry. The first one, obviously, being when they let go of head coach Bud, let go of their third coach in 3 years, as they are just running through coaches right now. It's not the last move they're going to make. They got a wild, busy summer ahead of them. And there's already a few new pieces in that domino flow that we're looking at that are going to be happening. So the first thing we got to talk about is the belief and the rumors that are running around that they're getting ready, the Suns are, to offer Devin Booker a 2-year extension for $149.8 million. Call it a $150 million extension. That's a lot of money. A lot of money, even by NBA standards. Now, he is still locked up for another 3 years, so this isn't going to be kicking in until about 2 years after that, or like 3 years down the line from now. And if you look at kind of across the league right now, the biggest contract that is out there is a little over $60 million right now, and that's to Jason Tatum. So you're talking about adding, it was $62 million right now for Tatum. So you're adding another $3 million or $13 million on the top of that. But it is 3 years down the line. They got a new TV deal coming out. As crazy as it sounds, that's not probably going to be the biggest contract in the league at that point. So, like, I don't think it's, like, outrageous. I don't love the deal at that point. Like, I don't know if Booker at this point is going to be a max contract guy for you at 30. There's a little feeling of we owe this guy, or that he is our guy, so we're going to overpay him a little bit and keep him here and try and keep him happy after everything that he's had to deal with right now. And I think there's a little bit more of that in this than anything else, of like, hey, I know it's been kind of rough, but you're still our guy, and we want to lock you in. And maybe he's earned that. He is the Suns through and through. He's the heartbeat of this franchise right now. But things haven't been going great. Would you rather reboot and kind of move him on and be like, hey, we appreciate the years that you gave us, and pull what, Portland did with Damian Lillard? Pretty comparable players. Lillard's had a little bit more kind of to his resume as far as individual accolades, not as much on team basis. He hasn't had the postseason success that Booker has had, but they moved off of him and kind of hit a reboot, and they're starting now to kind of get some pieces in play to kind of start their next chapter. Suns better doing that, because all signs point to them getting ready to move off of Durant. Which brings me to my next little piece of information, a little nugget that is another domino getting ready to fall. I mean, we've been reporting it since January that the Suns are getting ready to move off of Durant, that both sides know that this needs to happen and it's going to happen. I don't think it's anyone's surprise, but there were a few lingering reports, a few whispers that maybe the team was thinking that the best thing that they could do is keep Durant and Booker, and they still believe that. They just need to find a way to kind of get from under Beal's contract and make something new happen after that. Well, Katie, as he normally does, kind of got the Twitter fingers going again and had some back and forth with some fans, as he does from time to time. But he also had a really interesting exchange with Shane Young, who covers the NBA for Forbes Sports, and Shane had a post where he didn't even tag Durant in it, but he had said, and quote, "If Kevin Durant finds himself on another team next year, I have to say it was a great experience covering him over the last couple of seasons. Always a pleasure to talk after games. Even in tough losses, he's one of the few that keeps it real and truly enjoys discussing the game." And Kevin Durant saw that and replied, Shane, I appreciate your approach to your work. You made basketball convos fun and easy. Great working with you, brother. I appreciate the kind words. Now, if you're into reading in the tea leaves, sounds an awful lot like a guy said his final goodbyes to one of the reporters they liked. Maybe it isn't. Maybe he's just saying, I've had a good time talking with you. I appreciate your work. But it sounds an awful lot like him publicly saying and he appreciates what he's done and kind of moving on. And it felt very much like KD in that moment was kind of saying one of his goodbyes on a public forum to a guy that he clearly likes. But it did feel like he was moving on for whatever that's worth. You want to read into it? That's the way it reads to me. He also then, of course, went off and had a lot more to say, and people were talking about how Stephen A. Smith said that, he's not a good leader, and Durant then said that Stephen A. Smith is trying to run for president, and he's just running out there, call them propaganda that he's putting out there. The fact that Stephen A. Smith is actually considering running for president is so wild to me. After watching that guy for the last 10 years just sit at a debate desk and just scream at people, and for him to now have some seemingly credibility in the political sphere with what he's got going on and like legitimately considering running as a Democrat for president is wild to me. But that is the sign of the times of the politics that we live in. Pretty wild. Durant also said, and one other thing that stood out to me a little bit there, someone said that, they're again talking about how Stephen A. Smith had said he's not really a good leader. And Durant replied to him saying, I think I'm one of the greatest leaders of all time. It's a shame you can't see it. Boy, I guess I would just say he's not the only one that can't see it. I think Durant is one of the greatest hoopers of all time. And in a lot of ways, he's one of the most reliable and low management guys that you're never going to have to worry about Durant wanting to be in the gym and wanting to perfect his craft and wanting to get better. You're never really going to have to worry about him wanting to win. But leadership, he's going to take care of himself in that part, but he also, I don't think going at fans on Twitter shows good leadership. I don't think he's ever really, he raises your team ceiling, but he doesn't make kind of individuals necessarily all that, or, around him that much better. It's pretty sensitive. There's a lot of things about him that just do not exude leadership. He's so kind of quiet and just wants to go out and hoop. And that's been the huge knock on the Suns, is that Booker has picked up a lot of that personality to where he lost that competitive fire a little bit and that juice, and that this team doesn't have leadership has been the huge knock on it the entire year, was that they didn't have, when things went wrong and went bad, they didn't rally behind anybody. There wasn't that kind of leader. Again, Durant was going to still go out and play and do his thing, but he didn't really lead the rest of the guys there, unless you're a believer purely in the lead by example. And then everyone was supposed to kind of follow what he did as far as his approach, but that approach doesn't work for everybody. And if you're a leader, it's not about, I don't love the idea of leading by example, because that's not, leading is about getting everybody else to the promised land and helping get your guys the most out of every one of your teammates. And maybe you are, the best way for you to lead is by example, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way they are led. And I think the best leaders adjust to how the people that they are working with are best able to learn and grow. And so maybe if you surrounded KD entirely with a team full of guys that the best way that they respond is by watching a guy that day in and day out just goes to work and punches the clock and does his thing. But clearly that was not this team. This team, when things went wrong, needed somebody that they could look to and talk to, and somebody that could help either kick them in the butt and kind of get them going, or kind of encourage them in a bad time. And like, I don't think Katie did that. Katie kind of just sits on the side and like stays in his zone. So I don't look at that as being a one of the greatest leaders of all time. I think he's one of the greatest hoopers of all time. I think he's one of the greatest scorers of all time. And again, I think he's, when it comes to what's going on between the lines, he's one of the greatest players where you don't have to worry about if he's going to bring it or what he's going to do. Like, he's going to go out and play basketball and play hard and do his game every single time. It's a big difference, though, from that and leadership. There are some great leaders on teams who are not that great anymore on like playing basketball. The last few years of his career, Andre Iguodala was one of the best leaders on Golden State, and he barely saw the court anymore, but he was still a guy that would still mentor. You saw what he did with Wiggins when they made a championship run, and coaching him up and talking to him and knowing what he needed to say and win. To me, that's being a leader. And we never really saw that with Katie. We have it for as long as he's been in the career in the NBA and kind of around basketball. So I don't really buy that one. But back to his original tweet, it does look like maybe this chapter with him is over and that he'll be moving on somewhere else. And so now we got to start looking at kind of where that's going to be, what we got to start looking at what the Suns could potentially be getting back for him in a package deal, and kind of what the suitors are that are out there interested. A lot of teams should be, and a lot of teams that flame out in the playoffs are going to be the ones that you're going to really want to keep your eye on. Last domino that I want to talk about today, or potential one that could be falling soon at some point, who the next head coach is going to be for Phoenix. Who wants to sign up for this job? It's a tough job right now. It's a tough sell with how quickly they are running through coaches. There's talent, but it is problematic top to bottom. And you got an owner who is an absolute loose cannon wild card and willing to just spend money, but also crazy expectations. And who knows kind of where he wants to kind of take things here in a hurry. The leader in the clubhouse, according to the odds anyway, on BetOnline, has Steve Nash at 4-1, and he's the guy that makes the most sense to me, a guy that has some experience, a guy that has connections, obviously, to Phoenix, and a guy that has coached superstars before and kind of done okay. I feel like he could step in a little bit and still has the cachet and to kind of connect, I think, with some of the younger guys. Sam Cassell is currently the second best odds. He's at 9-2. Steve Nash is at 4-1. Cassell has been around a little bit on the coaching scene, and now he's an assistant coach on the Boston Celtics. So clearly he's been around some winning franchises if at this point right now coaching. So it's a weird fit in my mind a little bit. There's not a connection really to the Suns or ownership or anything like that. And like, he never had a personality that I looked at as like a basketball real savant or a great leader. And I feel like those are the two things that you have to have, one or the other, if you're going to move from being that player into being a coach. But I don't know which one really kind of stands out for him there. The next one's Willie Green, who kind of flamed out when he was over with the Pelicans. Mike Brown's on the list at 10-1, who flamed out with the Kings after he had a good run. Chris Quinn is on the list at 7-1. He's an assistant right now with the Heat. I mean, looking at this, at all the names that were on the odds, it's a bunch of misfits, a bunch of assistant coaches that most people hadn't really heard of, who haven't really done much of anything yet. There's not a lot of name value outside of Nash. Nash is the most experienced, I think, as far as a head coach on there, other than Mike Brown. But are you really wanting to cycle back through that, I guess? Or is there another team that wants to? And Mike Brown did really well in the Kings, where there was no expectations, and it was kind of off the radar a little bit. Like, I don't know if his personality and what he brings fits well for Phoenix. I just think it's got to be Nash at this point. I think that makes the most sense. And also, I think him coaching and having a little bit of connection with Booker would make for a nice combo. Like, he's a guy that can understand what the city wants, what the city needs, and he's a guy that can kind of coach him a little bit through this period and kind of help get this franchise that he got to pretty great heights. If he can come back and do that again as a coach, that'd be impressive. So those are the big names out there. Is there another dark horse potential candidate? Maybe, because it is a head coaching job in the NBA, but the list out there right now, I would say, is uninspiring. The Nash hire would be decent, be above average, I think. The rest of them aren't really moving the needle at all for me, which brings up what Connor here at Burn City Sports would be said for a long time when he was like arguing that we shouldn't move off of Coach Bud. Was, who are you going to go get? Well, it was a horrible season with Coach Bud. They felt like they had to pull the trigger. But now that is the big question. Who are you going to go get? Well, we're going to have to wait and find out. But it is only a couple of days into the offseason, and we've already got so many things to talk about with this team. It's never a quiet day with the Suns. So we'll wait and see for the next update, the next domino to fall, because the big one has fallen already, and there are about 3 more that are teetering. So I can't wait to see which one drops first.